Okay. All right. All right. There we go. There we go.
All
Yeet.
right. Breadth of the Riled by Colton Leahy. Disclaimer. I do not claim the rights or the names or usage of these characters in this fanfiction. It's just a satire to take the edge off during quarantine. Please don't rape me in the butt and sue me, Nintendo, or Zack Snyder, or anyone else I even remotely offended.
Oh my god.
In the vast deep jungle of your mom's vagina, long have I came as the guardian spirit. I am known as the Diku tree. The children of the jungle, as well as Tom Hanks, live here with me. But there was one boy who did not cross-dress like a fairy, and he alone was the biggest blue baller of them all. Still, he was tossing and turning in his bed, having wet dreams of a dark-toned ginger dressed in drag. Lightning split the sky wide open as the gates to a castle wall lowered a wooden bridge down to a flat two-dimensional field below. The grinding gears could be heard from many miles of the mostly barren flat land, with a cardboard cutout of a farm in the middle. The moment of appreciation for these tight-ass graphics was interrupted by a large red-haired man riding a large armored black horse out onto the field. He was wearing a short skirt, fishnets, and a purple thong was visible when he lifted his leg up on top of his horse. So, Linky Poo, Ganondorf drag queen called to him from the horse. Are you ready to eat out my mangina? He asked,
Oh god.
swinging one of his bra straps around to reveal his oversized breast implants. Had to be solid
Oh my
Ds,
fucking
at
god.
the very least.
Oh my
Link,
god.
the young elf boy that suspiciously looks like the blonde version of Peter Pan, stares up in both horror and confusion at the sight he was seeing. Lightning illuminated their faces. Before Link could react, Ganondorf sprang through the air and wrapped both his legs around Link's head, pinning him to the ground and pressing
my
his
God.
body down against his face.
No. Oh
He
my
struggled to speak, but his
No.
face was being smothered. That's right. Eat my man pussy, Link. Eat my man pussy. He yelled louder. Before he could
Holy
motion
shit.
his thong and remove it down his ankles, the entire scene was interrupted by a man yelling out loud, "Cut! Cut! Wrong! All wrong!" A friendly-faced middle-aged man with a graying beard and a penchant for sci-fi waved his hands in disgust. "You're doing this whole scene completely wrong." Ganondorf hopped off of Link and immediately pulled out a cigarette and started smoking it. "You serious? I thought I was pretty convincing." Link, on the other hand, continued to stare in shock and awe. He had no idea what was going on. He just remained there, his jaw agape, staring forward like he was paralyzed from what he had just experienced. Zack Snyder approached him. "The acting was fine. It was your posture that was off. You need to be more like this." Suddenly, he thrusted his pelvis into Link's face, pressing
Oh
his
my
crotch
God.
area
What
up
the
against
fuck, man?
up against his
Oh no.
forehead. You're supposed, you're supposed
my
to convince
God,
me
dude.
that...
What the fuck?
He presses his crotch area up against Link's forehead. "You're supposed to convince me that you're trying to force sex onto him against his will." He clambered on top of Link and stood on his shoulders with both his feet, lowering his pelvis in his face and practically dry humping him. He eventually stopped, looked around, and noticed there was another serious problem. While he still had the buckle on his belt pressed against Link's forehead as his crotch area was shoved completely in his face, I've also noticed a serious lack of special effects going on here. "We really need to touch up the CGI a bit," Snyder remarked. Ganondorf, puffing out smoke, had pink lips which were overdone in lipstick as he sucked the sweet nicotine down into his lungs. His eyes glanced at Snyder before he muttered, "Kinda like how Justice League could have used some touching up." Suddenly, he started coughing.
Damn.
Suddenly, he started coughing and hacking uncontrollably. He leaned over and gagged, spitting on the ground. Zack Snyder removed his crotch from young Link's face and got down, turned around to face Ganondorf and asked him, "What was that?" I can't hear you over all the choking you're doing over there. He continued to cough like he couldn't breathe at all. He pounded his chest with his fists, trying to force some of the smoke out. He managed to inhale the wrong way on the last puff and managed to choke down some ashes. Zack Snyder turned away from him and mumbled, "Wouldn't be the first time you choked something down, though, wouldn't it?"
Oh.
Then he turned his
God.
Then he turned his attention to young Link, who was still staring forward in shock. His mouth was still wide open, and Zack Snyder approached him again. "Yes, I think we can fix this scene on the next take, if you let me assume direct control over the creative aspect of the storytelling, and let me also do the CGI. Ganondorf shrugged. Finally, his coughing fit had ended. "Makes no fucking difference to me. I just want to get paid. And then laid. Not necessarily in that exact order." Thinking probably the latter more than the Snyder direction. "We get it. You're a feisty bitch, Ganon. Now shut the fuck up and let me direct this movie with the creative science fiction spark it deserved." He walked away from the flat 2D Hyrule Field stage set and got behind the camera and the computer that can control the CGI and enhance the Nintendo 64 graphics for the rest of the story, so that it's up to date with the brand new and improved upgrades of the GeForce RTX 4080, which has over 9,000 times the processing power of the RTX 3080. And it's also being sold. It's also being sold at the same retail price, which essentially means that everyone who spent their money on the RTX 3080 and 2080 got cucked out of the most up-to-date competitive PC gaming experience ever. So much for that big PP Master Race energy. Am I right, fellas?
Oh my God.
Zack Snyder adjusted the camera angle so that Ganondorf and his
energy.
horse was perfectly in the frame, and Link was on the opposite side. "And action," Zack Snyder called out. The trees rustled gently in the wind as a quiet hush blew across the field, urging even the smallest traces of grass to swing and fray in the wind. The water sparkled under a moon with 1080p graphics. Every sound was masterfully captured, like a James Cameron film. The grinding gears sounded more realistic this time as the wooden gate lowered and the black horse started trotting out on the field. But this time, the horse was furry as fuck. His tail was much bigger and fluffier. His fur was in high resolution, and his red eyes gleamed with bright, malicious intent. His hooves clopped against the brilliant design of the aged oak. The figure sitting atop of him had long ginger hair that fell past his shoulders. This time his breast implants were E-size cups, and he had long armpit hair, fishnets, a purple thong riding up his crack, and too much makeup and lipstick on his horrifying face. As
Oh
the
my
horse stopped
lord.
moving,
No.
That's a scary image, yo, and it's stuck in my head now.
As the horse stopped moving, Ganondorf looked down at the young boy in the green tunic. "Oh,
That's such a
Linky
bad
Poo.
time.
Oh, Linky Poo," he called out to him in a sexually seductive tone. "How'd you like to eat out my mangina?" He swung his cross strap around convincingly, showing off his right tit. Suddenly, a bright white light shined down on him from above, as a very generic starship from a science-fictional movie motioned across the sky and emitted a very loud noise, causing the trees to blow more violently, like in that movie with the aliens that invade from outer space, and it was kind of scary. The starship sent a beam of anti-gravity energy down on the young boy, drawing him up into the sky. Skyward, even.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Wow.
Thank you. Thank you. Ganondorf stared up in awe as the boy was raised up into the sky. "Whoa, you really are good at special effects in films, Zack." But Snyder shook his head and responded, "That's not mine. I have no idea what it's doing on my movie set. Does anyone have a bullhorn?" He stared around, but no one else seemed to be around other than Ganondorf. "No one?" As the light enveloped Link, a voice was calling to him from above. It sounded like a very friendly and familiar voice. "Link! Link, wake up!" He sounded like someone who he had a friend in. "Wake up, Link! I'm here!" Suddenly, the light that blinded him faded as a young Link opened his eyes, laying in his bed. As his vision returned to him, he looked up into the warm, loving face of Tom Hanks.
Oh no!
Oh god.
Oh
God
my
damn it.
god! No! Oh no!
Jesus Christ.
Oh my
That's fucked. That's so fucked.
How you doing there, sunshine? You were tossing and turning all over the place. He rubbed him gently on the shoulder. How you feeling, buddy? Link sat up, hanging his legs over the side of the bed, rubbing his eyes and then yawning before saying, like shit, dude. Tom Hanks
Bobby,
shrugged.
move the fuck out of my way, you
Tom Hanks
stupid
shrugged.
bitch.
Just glad to be welcomed into the community
Move,
and an
you
official
stupid
citizen
bitch.
of, wherever this place
Damn.
is. Link stared
Fat
down
ass
at the
is
floor,
annoying.
remembering the terrible dream he had. Seeing that dude on that horse, if he even was a dude, he shuddered, thinking of what happened next. Was it all just a bad dream? Aw, what's the matter, champ? Did someone get your tongue? He laughed awkwardly, loud and long, and then followed it up with, just kidding, of course. Link reluctantly responded, just had a really messed up dream. More like a nightmare, really. Then continued, probably shouldn't have eaten those shrooms I bought off that plumber. Dude, I was
no.
faded. Tom Hanks laughed and tried to empathize. I remember when that happened to me once. See, we were just wrapping up our shooting for Toy Story 2 when suddenly Woody's hat disappeared from the movie, then his entire body, and then the rest of the animation because someone had accidentally hit the delete button. Link nodded his head apologetically. Shit, dude, I'm sorry to hear that. Tom Hanks waved his hand dismissively. Nah, man, we made bank. And we made the children happy, too. And that's what matters most in the end. The children. He licked his lips and began to make very loud and convincing slurping noises.
No!
Link tried to rise up from the bed. Link tried to rise up from the bed, but he lost his sense of gravity
Hold on.
and faltered.
Alright.
He licked his lips and began to make very loud and convincing slurping noises. Link tried to rise up from the bed, but he lost his sense of gravity and faltered, about to fall over and crash to the floor. But Tom Hanks caught him first. Whoa there, cowboy. Where do you think you're going? He held both Link's shoulders and put his face close to his. Do you remember the routine I showed you? Take my hand and follow my steps. He took Link by the hand and started taking him around his room, showing him how to walk with a bit more finesse. After a while, it started to feel like they were slow dancing together or something. Show me sexy hands! Sexy
Oh,
hands!
God.
Now sexy feet! Tom Hanks yelled at him.
Oh,
Sexy
God.
feet!
Oh my god!
He practically tap danced across the floor. He practically tap danced across the floor. Link was struggling to keep up, though. He did a few hops and then a right foot, 2 stomps. A left foot, 2 stomps. Crisscross. Crisscross. And then he did jazz hands. Tom Hanks clapped like an overexcited
God.
child at the candy store. Good. Very good. That's a classic. Almost no one ever heard of that song or that dance. He finally stopped clapping. I think you're definitely ready now. Link stopped dancing and stared at Tom Hanks with bewilderment. Ready for what? He asked him. A grin materialized on his face as he said to him, The great Deku Tree wishes to speak with you. Link seemed taken aback. With me? He said surprisingly. Tom Hanks fired back. No, with Queen Latifah. Yes, with you, silly. Now get a move on, sexy forest boy. As he watched Link leave for the door, he gave him a quick smack on his little ass and smirked devilishly, watching him as he walked out the
Jesus.
door.
Oh my god.
Link stepped over to the wooden ladder that connected to the ground below. He slowly made his way down as Tom Hanks eagerly followed above him. He was moving quicker than Link was because his balls and crotch area kept landing on top of Link's head.
What the
Oops, sorry,
fuck?
Tom would keep saying as he continued to teabag him over and over again on the way down the ladder. My bad. When they finally reached the bottom, Link was caught off guard by 3 of the jungle girls jumping out of the bushes, while also having full bushes themselves, and wearing
Jesus Christ.
and wearing fishnets and having long armpit hair. They were all
Oh.
transgendered.
Oh, what the
That's-
And the,
fuck?
th-
Oh man.
and the 3 of them were wearing cat ears and immediately began dancing while singing, I'm a kitty, kitty, kitty.
No.
I'm a cat.
No.
And
Oh
if you
my
mess
god.
with me, you're gonna get scratched.
Oh god.
And they kept dancing and singing the ridiculous song while Tom Hanks watched with excitement and even danced along to the song with them,
Oh my
motioning his
fucking
hands
God.
the same way as them. But his hands were cat paws. Link seemed more disturbed and uncomfortable, just like he was in his dream. At least his mouth wasn't gaping open this time. How much did you guys spend on V-Bucks using your parents' credit cards to get all those skins and dances? One of the dancing girls answered, all of it! And the other girl laughed and said, yeah, that bitch is on welfare now. Tee-hee-hee! Link decided it would be a good time to move on. Tom Hanks followed intently behind him, always standing really close to him. They seemed like really nice girls. I hope they get their chicken dinners. Eventually, in time, Link and Tom Hanks made it to the main clearing of the jungle, also known as the G-Spot. And it was here that he knew the Great Deku Tree would be waiting for him. Before Link followed the path leading over to the tree, Tom Hanks grasped him by the shoulders and said to him, you take good care of yourself now. You're probably about to go on a crazy adventure that involves saving the world. I just have a feeling. It's not like it's ever been done any other time before. Like Bill Clinton's wife, he said to him.
Oh my god.
You remember how I showed you how to properly wield a sword? Let's see it. Link unsheathed his small, undersized sword that he found in the jungle. It didn't reach that much further in front of him. It looked more like a knife than it did a sword. Remember those moves I showed you? Sexy sword play? Sexy sword play. Link swung the sword and thrusted it a few times, getting a feeling for its weight and how it handled. He then sheathed it and said with conviction, I'm ready. Tom Hanks smiled and nodded. I know you're ready. Now go out and earn it. Work for it,
Oh
Link.
god.
Work for it. Oh, God! He suddenly screamed out in pain, hopping around on one foot as he pulled his footwear off and threw it a few feet away from him. My fucking foot! He screamed in agony, jumping around on one foot. Link stared at him in alarm. You okay, dude? Hanks was clutching his foot like something bit him. Suddenly, a slithering creature moved out of the boot on the ground and
Oh
slipped away
my
in the grass.
god.
I'm fine. I'm fine. It's just, Tom Hanks continued, there was a snake in my boot.
Oh my fucking god.
Oh my god.
Oh wow.
Oh, Lord. There was a snake in my boot. Okay. Alright. Here we go. Link approached the Deku Tree and knelt down on one foot before him. The Deku Tree opened his mouth as if he was about to speak, but then he opened his mouth wider and wider, and still no words were coming out. Link stared forward in confusion, and then he heard something sweeping through the air behind him. He dove out of the way as a giant phallus-shaped log drove itself directly into the Deku Tree's gaping mouth as he began to deep throat this large slab of wood.
Oh,
He
Oh
tried to
my
say-
god.
oh god.
he tried to speak as he choked on it. Link, I hesitate putting this in. But his words were garbled from having so much wood inside his mouth. Link stood up and squinted his eyes, dumbfounded. Huh? He asked. The Deku Tree still tried to speak as this large slab of wood kept pushing itself in and out of his mouth at a consistently fast rate of speed. I said the Dicker Tree finally spit the slab of wood out. It looked like there was maple syrup slowly dripping from his mouth.
No.
I have an
Oh my God. Oh my God. Why? Oh my God.
I have an important mission for you. You must come closer. But Link responded to him, kind of looks like that job's already been done.
Oh
The Dicker
no.
Tree licked the maple syrup off of his chapped lips. Oh, trust me,
Oh
kid,
man.
that job is never done.
Oh Jesus.
I don't get
Link immediately went quiet and stood there awkwardly. It was made even more awkward because a long, pronounced silence followed afterward, as he just stood there with the world's most dumbfounded expression on his little elf-like face. I have brought you here, the Dicker Tree finally interrupted the silence, to help make you into a real boy, like the others who live here in the jungle. Vines extended down from his branches and produced clothing for the young boy to wear. There were fishnets and a thong, a bra, a breast implant surgery toolkit, and a makeup
Oh
kit
my
with nail
God.
polish and
Oh
lipstick.
no.
Link stared down at the stuff that the Dicker Tree dropped off to him, unimpressed. The vines withdrew themselves back inside of the guardian spirit of the jungle. What do you expect me to do with these? I don't want to be a girl. I'm cisgendered. The Dicker Tree dismissed him. It is foretold in the prophecy that the plot will be compromised and sold out to the highest bidder. And instead of compelling storytelling and plot, you will get a narrative being pushed instead. A narrative that contains some kind of political message that doesn't belong there. Kind of like a lot of modern games these days. And it was foretold that you alone would correct the plot, would make the plot great again, that you would be
wow.
the chosen one. He paused before he continued. Take these
He'll
clues,
become the
Link.
Kanye West
Take these
of the
clues,
game.
Link. Become the first transgendered Nintendo character. It is your
Oh my
destiny.
God.
Oh no.
Jesus Christ.
Link picked the skirt up off of the ground and inspected it. The fabric felt nice. It was comfortable, but there was only one problem. But I'm not a girl. I never have been a girl, and I never wanted to be. I saved the princess because I'm trying to get a piece of pussy, but I never get it because she always gets kidnapped. That's supposed to be the whole story. My skin color or sexual preference or what gender I identify as shouldn't have anything to do with the main plot. You're getting old and you're dying, Great Dicker Tree, and your narrative has become tainted by modern-day politics, Link calmly explained. But the Dicker Tree seemed like he was getting increasingly annoyed with him. Listen here, you little pissant. I didn't suck slab after slab of wood all day today for free. Do you have any idea how much Nintendo pays me on the hour to suck this much wood? More money than you can imagine. I don't ask questions anymore. They pay me to do what they tell me, and I have no creative control or say in the matter. You must accept your destiny, Link. You must give up the entire plot and your baseline character personality traits and everything that makes you who you are in order to become more marketable. Do you understand what I'm saying to you, little bitch? Or would you like me to repeat myself again? Get it?
Jesus.
Because in the game, he asked, would you like me to repeat myself?
Mm-hmm.
Link dropped the skirt on the ground and turned away from him, folding his arms. No, I refuse. The Dicker Tree gasped. Tom Hanks was watching in the distance, but he wasn't in earshot range. He gave Link 2 enthusiastic thumbs ups and an over-enthusiastic smile, believing things were going well for him. Link had a disappointed expression written all over his face. He expected to be summoned by the guardian spirit to, oh, I don't know, go save the world from infernal darkness and destruction, get the princess back, find and secure the 7 Chaos Emeralds. Instead, the Dicker Tree insisted, you are gay, Link. You are a transgender. You must adorn yourself in our people's attire. Then he changed the tone of his voice all serious-like before saying, this is the way. But Link
Oh
shot
my
back.
God. Those
Link shot,
references.
Link shot back. This is pretty gay. I associate with the gender I was born with. Why do I need to be the one to save the plot of the story? But the Dicker Tree had grim news to share with him. Because I'm dying sooner than you realize, Link. Suddenly, Link started to feel slightly sympathetic. Hearing the news of someone's death, even a tree that loved to deep-throat endless slabs of wood, always made the mood feel more heavy. Like when you try to carry too much equipment or dragon scales in your pouch all at once. Wrong game. Link actually has infinite inventory space, and that's good because he's going to need a pretty heavy backpack to carry the weight of the rest of this fanfiction. That's for damn sure. The Dicker Tree continued with his depressing monologue that most gamers rapidly mash the button on their controller to try to skip because the dialogue is more lengthy than the amount of screen time that Brie Larson got for Avengers Endgame.
Oh my god.
Not that much,
Wow.
but not less enough. Can we get back to the fact that I'm old and I'm dying? The Dicker Tree inquired. I realized something, Link, because you were sort of right in a way. Suddenly, Link looked puzzled. He turned around and faced him. A well-written plot is more important than trying to push a political message in a story. I realize it now. Otherwise, you just have a jumbled mess of things that
Oh
are
my
out of
fucking
sequence.
god, let go.
And it ruins the immersive experience that it's supposed to be. It was like he was having an eye-opening revelation. His mouth began to hang open agape again, as the truth had finally been realized, even in his elder years. I see it now, Link. I figured out what your destiny truly... Suddenly, he cut off. The bark of the great Dicker Tree began to wither and decay until it was a disgusting purplish color. The leaves dried up and withered, and began their descent to the ground below. The wind carried the leaves over to Link, and they swirled around him, as he was the eternal hero chosen by the plot of this story to carry the plot forward and not be destroyed by the evil forces of subliminal political messages and social justice mobs. He didn't need the Dicker Tree's guidance. What he needed and the powers he sought, he already had inside of himself. Just like a short green alien that did lots of ketamine once said.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my god.
Link felt a renewed sense of purpose within himself. He would no longer spend his days inside of the jungle of your mom's vagina. It was time to move on to better things. Although he certainly spent as much time inside that jungle as pretty much everyone else had in the community, he knew he wasn't
Holy
destined to
shit.
stay in here forever. But it was a very warm and comfortable stay.
Oh.
And Link was sad to have to leave it all behind him. He walked past Tom Hanks and all the other transgender children that were posing in front of a camera for their premiere in the sequel to Netflix's Cuties called Slutties.
Oh no.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
They were posing in front of a camera for the premiere in the sequel to Netflix's Cuties called Slutties, which was a fan favorite of middle-aged men and seniors all around the world.
I don't get it.
Wait, Link, Tom Hanks called to him as he kept walking toward the exit of this dense jungle. If you leave the jungle, you'll die. You're not a real boy yet. He then waved his skirt and thong around in the air above his head. You have to put these on first. Link continued walking on. He wasn't stopping for anyone. He was an eternal hero, so he knew the plot armor would protect him from anything too terrible, regardless of what it was. He went through the tight hole which led to the exit point. It sounded like a woman's voice was laughing and giggling, like the whole jungle was squirming around from the sensation. Link groaned as he squeezed through. Damn, what a tight fit, considering how many come and go
Oh
every
my
day.
god.
He commented. But finally, he made it out, right out onto the open freeway. Where he expected a poorly rendered flat world with mostly nothing in it, he instead was standing on concrete in a much more futuristic world than what he expected. He stumbled around aimlessly out in the middle of the road. Wait, where am I? He looked around both directions, and just as he turned to face his left, a car came speeding toward him well over the maximum speed limit, and laid down the horn as the car attempted to slam on the brakes, but not before smashing into the young elf boy so hard that he mostly smashed the front window before rolling over the top of the car and hitting the pavement behind the car, with his arms and legs snapping awkwardly as blood spilled out of his mouth and other organs and created a pool of blood around him. Suddenly, a transgendered fairy girl peeked out from the tunnel leading into the dense jungle, and she spotted the dead body on the pavement. Link! she screamed over dramatically at the top of her lungs as bold red letters that spelled "Game Over" appeared on the screen,
Oh
and
my
super
God.
super
No.
depressing piano music began to play.
Wow.
I went there, guys. Oh yeah. Tom Hanks peeked his head from outside of the tunnel, standing beside the young transgendered fairy girl. Ah, shucks. Roadkill on Route 66? I hope not. He then reached.
Oh my Oh no! Oh my God! Oh my God! Okay. Okay. Oh.
He then reached his hand around the young girl's hip and clasps her left ass cheek tightly, guiding her back inside. Link's lifeless corpse remained on the side of the road like a hooker that was discarded after biting the ShamWow guy's tongue, even though he literally asked for it.
Oh wow!
Even though he literally asked for it. So it's kind of whack. A bright light shined in on Link's corpse, just like the spaceship from the dream. It lifted him up higher as a voice called to him, "Link," and kept calling, "Link, wake up, Link. You've been out for over a century." A youthful, yet more cartoony-looking Link than what we've seen him in more retro 3D renderings, opened his eyes and lifted his head up, lying in a pool of shallow water, without any clothes on. He could tell, by his surroundings, that he was in some kind of a cave. It just as easily could have been some 30-year-old's basement, but there were no half-empty bag of Lay's chips or bottles of soda pop to be found, so he assumed he must have been in a cave. He groaned as he weakly pulled himself up to his feet and stumbled, trying to get out of the
What the
cave.
fuck?
"Why are my legs so weak?" Link grumbled. A voice echoed inside the cave. "You have not used them in over 100 years." He sounded suspiciously like Lawrence Fishburne from the Matrix and John Wick series. "Who are you?" Link asked, as he began to climb toward the bright light streaming down on him from the world outside. The voice responded, "More important than who is what," he said. Link stopped climbing for a moment and had a dumbfounded expression on his face. "Okay, then what?" he asked. Then the voice replied, "More important than what is when." Link reached the top of the cave and was momentarily blinded by the light, but he could see a cloaked figure standing right in the middle of the entryway of the cave. He outstretched his arms. "Welcome to the end of meaningful plot and storytelling in video games as we know it." As Link's eyes adjusted, he could see a cloaked figure wearing what looked like a fake gray beard, and he was trying too hard with his voice impressions. "Tom Hanks?" Link inquired. The man stared at him with intrigue. "Huh? What? I have no idea what you're talking about." Link took a few steps toward him, and the man took a couple of steps back. "I know it's you, dude. Why are you trying to talk like Lawrence Fishburne?" he asked him. The man raised a finger in front of Link's face. "More important than why is how." Link interrupted him by grabbing his finger and bending it at an awkward angle to the point where it was about to break, and the man let out the most girlish scream he'd ever heard. He then ripped his fake beard off of his face and pulled his hood down to reveal it was, in fact, Tom Hanks. "Tell me what happened to me. Why am I here? Why did I have a dream about a terribly written plot with bad subliminal political messages, and all the characters were transgendered? What is happening to me?" Even though his identity was revealed, he managed to croak out in pain, "Because you are the one, Link." Link lowered his eyebrows with visible irritation. "Stop quoting the Matrix, and tell me what happened to Hyrule. This isn't the Hyrule I remember."
Oh my God!
He looked out at the vast open expanse of land, and although it was enormous in scope and size, it was still mostly empty. But at least the graphics looked charming enough. "Okay, Link, so try not to trip too hard over this," Tom Hanks said to him with his friendly cowboy that's struggling with his masculinity kind of tone. "But you smoked an insane amount of weed about a century ago. You were having a competition to see who could smoke the most weed in Hyrule. And even though you won, it came with a price. You fell into a deep stoner sleep for 100 years, and the princess feared that you'd never awaken." Link tried to let that information process and sink in, but his thoughts immediately turned to the princess. 100 years of not getting pussy? He looked at Tom Hanks. Where is she? He asked him. He placed his hands on his hips and looked down with shame. You're not going to like what I'm going to say. Link raised a skeptical eyebrow. Well? He asked. Tom Hanks looked him in the eye. She's Ganondorf's bitch now. Link stared back in a mixture of horror and pure rage, as he was suddenly filled with images in his head of Ganondorf fucking his woman for 100 years, and having fun while doing it. He probably took advantage of every day Link was asleep, and he also realized that by the time he actually did get to the center of Zelda's Tootsie Pop, he would probably be...
Oh, no. Oh,
I wish that game didn't go AFK just now. Oh.
That's what she said.
By the time he actually did get to the center of Zelda's Tootsie Pop, he would probably be getting Ganondorf's sloppy seconds, no thirds. Actually, make that about fourths or fifths. The thought made him shudder. The thought made him shudder in sheer absolute disgust. And then a rage began to build up inside him as his gaze pierced through Tom Hanks. Where is he? He asked as his complexion became pinker and his fingers curled to form fists. Tom Hanks pointed to an area that looks surrounded entirely by water. He's in the Vah Ruta dungeon. But I must warn you, Link, Hyrule has changed a lot in your 100 years of slumber. Link shrugged. I don't care. I'm a millennial. he approached the side of the cliff and looked for a safe way to traverse. But part of him just wanted to jump right off the side because he was, well, a millennial.
Oh my God.
Tom Hanks helpfully offered him the paraglider, but just before Link could take it, he pulled it back and said, I can give it to you in exchange for a favor. Link stared at him blankly for a moment. Then he sighed before he got down on his knees in front of Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks stopped him, laughing. No, nothing like that.
Oh
No,
my
that isn't
God.
quite that isn't quite what I had in mind. Later on, Link and a horse are seen walking into a house together, and then Tom Hanks walks in with them, looks around outside to make sure they're not being watched, and then takes them inside. This section of the story has been redacted by cancel culture. Just screaming at you, oh my God. Uh-oh. Later on, Link and a horse are seen walking into a house together, and then Tom Hanks walks in with them, looks around outside to make sure they're not being watched, and then takes them inside, and then dashes.
Sometimes I really hate going to the grocery store because it's very...
Shut the fuck up.
This section of the story has been redacted by cancel culture. Link approaches a temple after solving the kindergarten-level puzzle designs of the dungeons of this world. Unimpressed and unfulfilled, he walks toward the center of the room and yawns, waiting for the boss to spawn. There was an effort to be dramatic and suspenseful when he spawned in, but as Waterblight Ganon materialized, Link very quickly found himself asking the same question he had been asking since he first discovered there weren't any official temples in this game. Is there any variety in this game at all? Like seriously? Link asked the boss. He momentarily lowered his weapon. Waterblight Ganon looked appalled by his reaction. I mean, dude, check me out. I'm wearing ancient Sheikah armor. Remember them? Remember how cool they were? He tried flexing on Link and showing off his armor and his nicely rendered graphics. But Link still sighed unenthused. They were cooler in the retro games because they were more mysterious, and they acted more like stealthy ninjas than they did weird robots that resemble the craftsmanship of Dr. Robotnik, which Robotnik came up with after snorting a line of coke in his lab after finger blasting Amy and Tails.
Oh my god. No. Oh my god.
Amy and Chitties are flat.
Resemble the craftsmanship of Dr. Robotnik, which Robotnik came up with after snorting a line of coke in his lab after finger blasting Amy and Tails.
What the fuck, dude? Damn it. I was supposed to be.
Waterblight Ganon looked like his feelings were deeply hurt. How dare you insult the CGI brilliance of Zack Snyder? It was his idea, after all, to include robot monsters instead of just regular monsters. Robot monsters are cooler. Link approached him, fearless. Oh, did the tire get changed already? That's quick. I guess
Hi,
so.
Mrs. Leahy.
Link approached him, fearless, and his blood was still boiling. Why don't you show me your true form? How many times do I need to fight this boss anyway? Are there a variety of bosses in this game? Waterblight Ganon responded flatly. You must fight me 3 more times after this time, and I am actually the only boss in the game. There are no temples, there are no bosses aside from me. Link looked even more disgusted. Really? That's it? Pretty disappointing if you ask me. Remember how difficult the water temples used to be? What the hell happened while I was gone? Did game developers shit themselves? Waterblight Ganon Waterblight Ganon felt him on a very real emotional vibe. He was starting to make sense. He had to admit that it was the truth. How does a Zelda game not have dungeons, or a variety of bosses, or a purpose behind collecting items other than being rewarded with a shiny golden turd? Link spoke out. That's what this game truly amounted to in the end. It looks great, it plays okay, it lets you cook and stuff, but in the end, it's a polished golden turd. It looks really nice, but it's a turd all the same. Waterblight Ganon blinked a few times, letting Link's mad facts hit him like a punch to the face.
What the hell?
You're right.
God damn.
You're right, he confessed. Suddenly, he transformed back into his original form. His breasts were enormous, his armpit hair was as unkempt as his beard and hair, and he had a thong riding up his crack. He was Ganondorf drag queen again. So you are actually here, Link remarked. He nodded. A lot has changed since you've been gone, Link. I thought I finally had a run-up on you, and that Zelda's pussy would be mine to pound forever. But the plot simply wouldn't stay simple or consistent.
I got one fucking hit in.
And before long, the Kingdom of Hyrule was invaded by outsiders and political miscreants, as well as cancel culture. And that's what dethroned me in the end. Link stared at him in alarm as he said these words. Wait, you mean to tell me? Yes, Link, he responded. I got cancelled. Link's jaw dropped. He was appalled. He never thought that the King of Evil would be thwarted by SJW politics. They can't be that powerful, Link said, trying to reassure himself. There's no way they can be that strong. Ganondorf raised a skeptical brow. To give you a comparison of just how powerful they are, they're more powerful than the blue Wizrobes in the 6th dungeon of the first Zelda game. Link winced when he tried to picture it. Ganondorf continued, they're stronger than the 3rd boss in A Link to the Past, whose health resets every time you get knocked off the map. Link made a hissing sound with his mouth. Oof, he said. And then Ganondorf said, and finally, of all the Zelda references I could make, this one is the most pertinent. They're harder than the Death Mountain level in Zelda 2 Adventure of Link. Link gasped loudly as his eyes widened and he stared forward in sheer terror. Impossible! Ganondorf nodded his head. I was cancelled not very long into my rule, and soon after the plot fell apart. But there was a prophecy passed down, that one day you would wake from your stoned comatose, and you would put the plot back on the right track, and make Hyrule great again, and get these people out of our world and make them go back from where they came from. Link frowned and denounced him. I'm afraid I'm not Donald Trump. I don't think I can fulfill that promise. But I have a better idea than all that anyway. Ganondorf seemed bewildered. Joe Biden? He asked. Link
Oh, no.
face-palmed. Link face-palmed. No, none of that bullshit. I was thinking of something much more interesting. He approached Ganondorf and wrapped his arm around his head and guided him out of the boss room so they could stand in front of the water instead and get a better view of Hyrule. What if we switch roles for a change? Link asked him. I'm tired of doing the same shit over and over again. Saving the world, not getting any pussy, doing it all again the next day. I maybe could settle for it if the political messages weren't being shoved up my ass the entire time I'm trying to enjoy the game. But what if we say fuck all the politics and just switch roles for the day? You try and save the princess while I keep her captured in
I'm
my
fighting her
sex-
again?
I mean, my final endgame temple. Ganondorf scratched his beard while he listened to Link's suggestion. He tried to picture it in his head. What a unique experience that would be. So what you're suggesting then is that I would be the hero for a change, and you would be the bad guy seeking world domination and holding the princess captive. Link nodded. Hell yeah, because think about this, dude. Someday Zelda's going to be written to be too strong of a female lead for me or you to subdue her. And when that happens, the plot will be fucked beyond all recognition. You really want to wait until it's too late for that to happen? Or do you want to live it up a bit before cancel culture decides it wants to come back for seconds and finish you harder than Shang Tsung sucked the soul out of Liu Kang at the end of Mortal Kombat 11?
Forever.
Forever.
Ganondorf gave some serious thought and consideration to what the green little fairy fuck was suggesting. Will you still FaceTime me while you're with Zelda? I might get stuck and need a few tips. Link smirked as he responded. As long as I'm not busy giving her my tip first, then sure, I'll gladly give you all the tips you want. He gave Ganondorf a wink. Here's the keys to Hyrule Castle and to Zelda's room. Try not to make a mess all over the bed or the curtains, please. Seriously, Link, keep that wand of gamelan of yours
Yes.
under control. You hear me?
Pizza. Pizza.
Oh, God.
Keep that wand of gamelan of yours under control. Link caught the keys without looking at them. In return, he tossed his
No.
Master Sword to Ganondorf.
Mhm.
Remember, evil people can't use that sword, so you're going to have to either completely change your baseline character traits and become a good character overnight, or have a huge inconsistency in the plot of the Zelda series, because it is, after all, the blade of evil's bane. Evil characters can't actually wield the Master Sword. It's canon, and unless we're J.J. Abramsing the shit out of this story, you better have a change of heart fast. Ganondorf smiled at Link with a bizarre warmness for an evil villain such as himself. I think I'm beginning to have a change of heart already. He held the blade in his hands and felt its power become his own. He set out from the temple to begin his adventure. Eagerly, he wanted to prove his worth and be a hero. Ganondorf Drag Queen, the first transgender protagonist that ends up saving the day. And in return, Link gets to take a day off from saving the world to resolve the inconsistency of not slamming royal Hyrulean coochie in over 100 years. As he made his way across the land, he was surprised at how many calories he managed to burn by monitoring his fitness tracker. In the couple of steps he took away from the temple, he managed to burn about 1 or 2 calories, which was actually a new record for the amount of physical exercise he managed to get in a week. I feel like a hero already, Ganondorf proudly announced as he leaped and skipped across the flowery fields of Hyrule, dainty goddess. Stalking his prey and watching him closely, target locked, he spoke into his wristband. He reached for his blaster, his orange ears perked up. Just as his foe was about to cross the next section of the field, he jumped out from behind cover and aimed his gun, blasting at Ganondorf and trying to bring him down before he can pose a serious threat. Ganondorf could see the fox dude trying to shoot at him, so he jumped up in the air, his cape flapping in the wind behind him, and then he did a goblin kick where he shoots downward, while an aura of dark energy surrounds his entire body and increases his overall impact force. He smashed his foot into Fox McCloud's face so hard, he went soaring upward through the sky, until he ended all the way in space. And he kept flipping through space while the song Shooting Stars kept playing on repeat. Hey, Fox, do a barrel roll, Peppy the Hare spoke over the intercom. Fox flew by their R-wings, flipping through space endlessly. Oh, wow, you're a natural, Fox, Peppy exclaimed joyfully.
Oh, no.
George Floyd?
Ganondorf might have eliminated one opponent, but it appeared as though a new opponent was about to enter the battlefield. He was wearing a red helmet with a purple attire. He looked like some kind of buff race car driver. The dude glared at Ganondorf and extended his hand toward him, waving him on and saying, "Show me your moves." Ganondorf stared at him seductively. "I don't think you can handle these moves, big boy." He cartwheeled across the grassy field and wrapped his legs around Captain Falcon's head, forcing him into a headlock, where his mouth and nose was pressed up against Ganondorf Drag Queen's thumb.
Oh god.
"How are these moves? You like it?" Captain Falcon was more feisty than Ganondorf expected, and he punched him where he expected his balls to be, but it felt like coochie instead. "What's the matter, Captain? Feeling impotent?" Captain Falcon was getting very irritated and disgusted by this performance. He winded up his fist and did his battle cry, "Falcon!" Before he could finish, Ganondorf thrusted his hand forward in a quick motion and scooped up both his balls in one hand and held on with a death grip.
Oh, fuck. Ouch.
Captain Falcon cried out as his fist trembled inches from Ganondorf's face. He couldn't move another muscle because of the immense pain shooting through his body at the firm, manly grasp that the cross-dressing sorcerer had around his ginkleberries. "This is how you throw a punch," Ganondorf said as he curled his fingers into a fist, charged it with dark magical energy, and Goblin punched Captain Falcon so hard he went through a portal that took him straight into the nether. A horde of pigmen awaited him as the skeletons took turns fucking him, while Notch's cat...
Holy shit, dude. Holy shit.
While Notch's cat continued making low-toned purring noises as they flew around in the air.
Oh
Soon the pigmen had their turn with him as well.
Oh,
Notch, of course, was the
no.
creator of Minecraft, just in case you were basic. Ganondorf brushed the dirt off of his cape and shoulders in a taunting kind of way. "Stick to racing, scrub," before he continued on with his adventure. His stomach rumbled because beating up low-tier Smash players always made him work up an appetite. Fortunately, there appeared to be a cooking pot conveniently placed just next to a river where fish were hopping in and out of the water as they progressed further down the river. Further down the river. Like that awesome song by Incubus.
Oh, wow.
Ganondorf lit the fire. Ganondorf lit the fire underneath the pot. He also lit the fire inside of his pipe bowl, which also contained pot, and smoked himself up a storm that would give even Guru a run for his money.
Oh,
You're
wow.
really basic. You're really basic if you don't know who that is. But Ganondorf was suddenly stricken with despair. Like that disturbed song. Okay, I'll stop. He realized, however, that he would need to collect ingredients in order to cook himself a mouth-watering meal, and that would prove to be problematic. How the fuck am I supposed to know what belongs together in a pot and what doesn't? Coming to his rescue, it was Cody! Cody collected plants and other herbs he randomly plucked from the forest. It probably wasn't edible. You could even tell by looking at it. But he approached Ganondorf and said, "Hey man, sup? Want me to send you my wee friend coat?" Ganondorf looked disgusted by the sheer sight of this fucker. "Not particularly," he said, now brushing his cape to make sure he didn't get any stupid on him every time the dude spoke. "You sure, baby?" he asked. "Excuse me?" Ganondorf glared at him with even more disgust. "I said," Cody corrected himself, "you sure, maybe?" "Whatever," Ganondorf dismissed him. "Just grab a couple of Hylian herbs, throw them the fuck together, and let's see what happens." Cody placed the herbs inside of the pot, but he also added the grass and the weeds he plucked from the forest. Ganondorf raised a skeptical eyebrow. "I don't think that should get added. Just because it grows in the forest or grows from the ground doesn't mean it's edible." "Everything is edible, actually," Cody explained. "I'm a chef. I went to cooking school, and I quit my job at McDonald's after trying to move in with a gay guy. So I think I know how to cook food, okay?"
What the fuck?
This is a true story.
Okay. Are
Didn't
you
I tell you the story about how Cody plucked plants and herbs from the fucking woods and then used my mom's frying pan to fucking cook fucking food?
No, I don't remember this. What?
He literally believes that everything that grows in nature can be used as a food source, and he literally went for a walk in the woods while using a big giant fucking stick like he was fucking Gandalf from fucking Middle Earth, and he fucking took a bunch of herbs and plants and other shit, threw them in a fucking frying pan that my mom was using. I was asleep during all this. My mom was up there, and Cody was like, "Hey, do you mind if I borrow your frying pan?" And mom's like, "Sure. What are you using it for?" And then Cody was frying the fucking herb that he picked out of the fucking woods. And then my sister comes down and my mom makes a joke and my mom says, "Hey, you want to try some of that?" And my sister's like, "Yeah, no thanks." And then they told me this story and I'm like, "Are you fucking serious?" So that's what I'm making fun of here in the story.
Oh,
Everything is
wow.
edible, actually, Cody explained. I'm a chef. I went to cooking school. Oh, and he quit his job at McDonald's because he tried to say that there was carbon monoxide poisoning because there wasn't proper filtration at McDonald's.
Oh,
And that was
wow.
because he was actually trying to honey dick me so that he could move into an apartment with me and basically live off of me for free by basically trying
Gosh.
to he was trying to appease my basic human instincts by basically like he knew that I like dudes, so he's trying to seduce me.
Ah.
Everything is edible, actually, Cody explained. I'm a chef. I went to cooking school, and I quit my job at McDonald's after trying to move in with a gay guy. So I think I know how to cook food, okay? Thick gray smoke came out of the pot as the herbs, the grass, the weeds were cooked to a charred crisp. And I mean a charred crisp.
Oh,
But Cody
God.
took one bite and said, tastes delicious. Ganondorf hesitated before he took a bite. He spit it out on the ground and said, "This is disgusting." He looked to his left and noticed that someone else came to sit beside the campfire. "What do you think?" The middle-aged man took a bite of Cody's burnt herbs and his face wrinkled with sheer horror and disgust. He spit the food out onto the plate and said, "It tasted like the charcoal off of my grandmother's wood stove. You can't fucking cook." Cody began to cry, feeling the tears stream down his face as Chef Ramsay tore him a
Oh,
new asshole.
no.
You're a fucking sad excuse for a chef, you know that? What in the flying fuck were you thinking? Trying to make a recipe like that? Gordon Ramsay exclaimed at him.
Oh, my
In shame,
God.
Cody turned and began to run away. Hey, you! Come here, you! I'm not finished with you yet! He grabbed a fistful of grass and herbs and threw it at Cody as he ran away. It hit him in the back of the head. "Fuck off!" Ramsay screamed at him as he continued to run and scurry away, sobbing.
Oh, my God.
"That was harsh, Ramsay," Ganondorf remarked. Gordon shrugged and put his hands on his hips. "If you can't handle the heat, stay the fuck out of Hell's Kitchen." Ganondorf was
Oh,
starting to feel dread. This man was truly terrifying. The way he tossed that buffoon out. His self-awareness got the better of him. "I can't cook," he realized to himself, and if Chef Ramsay found out, the implications filled him with fear. Just as he was thinking this, Gordon looked over at him with that piercing gaze as he jabs his finger toward him. "You!" Then he waved him on. "Come here, you!" Ganondorf looked to his left, then to his right, and then back to Gordon before pointing at himself. "Me?" "Oh, come on!" Gordon screamed impatiently. "Who else is around? Yes, I'm talking to you! Wake up, Ganondorf!" "Sorry, Chef," Ganondorf started nervously. "And why are you using this kind of pan? Look at that!" He pulls the pan over to show Ganondorf. "Just fucking look at it. It's supposed to be non-stick." As he says this, he smashes Ganondorf over the head with the pan. Ganondorf hits the ground hard,
wow.
knocked almost nearly unconscious. "Lying around on the job," Gordon Ramsay glared at him as he laid there. He kicked him. "Wake up, you donkey! Hungry customers are going to be here in the next 5 minutes, and if that pot isn't cooking food, then it's your ass! And fuck me if I'm going to take the fall for your inadequacies as a cook, sweetheart." Ganondorf slowly crawled to his feet as he shook his head, still disoriented from being abused both verbally and literally by Chef Ramsay. But with only minutes away from opening time, would he be able to get his act together? He still couldn't get over how fucking angry the dude was. He urged himself to get to his feet, and his thoughts immediately turned to Link and his phone. He figured maybe he could call Link and get his advice. It was his first time trying to be the hero after all, so he figured asking the professional would be useful. Gordon kept checking his watch as Ganondorf frantically touched his phone, trying to FaceTime his Hyrulean comrade. "Fuck me, fuck me, fuck me!" Gordon kept cursing over and over again as the watch kept ticking.
Oh, wow.
Ganondorf watched as the symbol kept blinking, indicating that his call was trying to go through. Come on, please answer. He began biting his teeth in nervousness. Sweat was beating down his forehead. He looked over his shoulder to see that Chef Ramsay's penetrating stare was awaiting him. His frustration and impatience only grew with each passing second, and it was visible by his reddening complexion. Finally, a video appeared on the screen. It showed Zelda being bent over the bed as Link took her, doggy style, and she kept screaming, "Oh yes! Yes,
Oh
Link!"
God.
The phone shifted to show Link in the picture, holding the phone while he was also plowing the princess from behind. "Oh hey, dude," he panted breathlessly while he continued humping her. "What's up? How's the adventure coming along?" "Not nearly as good as you are right about now," Ganondorf replied. "Oh yeah? What's the matter? Not enough hot or cold environments for you to make the game feel like it has variety?" Link asked. He continued thrusting as Zelda hung over the side of the bed like a rag doll, still moaning as he drove his quote-unquote wooden sword into her. It certainly wasn't dangerous to go alone anymore, that was for damn sure.
Oh wow.
"I had this guy here, some legendary chef or whatever," Ganondorf tried to speak quietly, because he could feel Ramsay's gaze burning through the back of his neck. "And if I screw up this recipe, I think he's going to do something terrible to me, like ram something up my ass or something." "You're kidding," Link said as he continued ramming himself up Zelda's ass. "That sounds pretty awful, dude."
Oh my God. That fucking coincidence, Jesus Christ.
"That sounds pretty
This
awful, dude.
bitch, man.
But don't worry, I'm sure you'll be just fine." "What should I do, Link?" Ganondorf asked. He still looked fraught with concern. "Just add ore or other valuable minerals to the dish. Throw in the few Hylian herbs, and I'm sure you'll be fine." He grunted and moaned as he was just about ready to finish her off. "Are you sure that's such a good idea?" Ganondorf looked like he still had some lingering doubts. "Yes! Oh my God, yes!" Zelda screamed at the top of her lungs. "Really, Zelda?" Ganondorf asked her. "You really think it's a good idea?" "Fuck yes!" Zelda
Oh
exclaimed at the top of her
no.
lungs.
No.
"Oh my God, you're so good! You're so good!" she yelled out loud. Ganondorf let a bright smile appear on his face.
Oh
"Gee,
no.
thanks!" Then before he hung up the phone, "Enjoy my sloppy seconds, Link." "Wait, what?" He hung up the phone
Wow.
and put it away in his pocket. He hung up the...
Oh no. Oh my God.
He hung up the phone and put it away in his pocket. He had no idea that his friends vouched for him to the extent that they did. He approached the pot and immediately got to work, adding a bit of salt to give some base flavor to the dish. He then threw in the Hylian herbs and other exotic spices, like the ones that could only be taken out of your mom's vagina in particular.
Oh God.
He then did what Link and Zelda told him to do and added some iron ore into the pot.
Oh no.
Gordon was too busy preparing plates and silverware. Orders were beginning to come in, both on the computer and with approaching customers that were starving. He wrote their orders down on little sticky notes and then picked them up, yelling orders back to Ganondorf. "I need 1 lamb, 1 Wellington, a dozen cooked Hylian shrooms, diced tomatoes, 1 risotto, and a salad dressed in sauce created from the Great Fairy's teat. Let's go!" Ganondorf was frantically trying to get his act together. He stumbled around, trying to rush and collect other ingredients he needed to satisfy the customer's demands.
So
He dropped one of his
fucking dumb.
He dropped one of his cast iron spatulas on the ground and then cursed under his breath as he bent over to pick it up. "Oh, come on!" Gordon screamed in the back. "Go wash it off in the sink, you filthy pig! Move your ass!" "Yes, chef!" Ganondorf exclaimed as he rushed to the sink to wash the spatula off and get back to work. Some of the soapy water spilled onto the floor as he rinsed it off and splashed water everywhere because he turned the taps way too far, to the point where the valve was almost ready to explode. He then rushed back over to the pot, but the soapy water caused him to slip and slide as he slid next to the pot and caught himself, spilling some of the water from inside the pot out onto the ground. Gordon Ramsay shook his head in disapproval
That's
and
so
cursed at him.
bullshit, bro.
Gordon Ramsay shook his head in disapproval and cursed at him. "You Yankee Danky Doodle piece of dog shit!" Ganondorf felt his words cut into him like a sharp knife. He fought back the tears as he finished preparing his meal. Service, please, Gordon called back. Ganondorf immediately headed over with the plate of the cooked iron ore and Hylian herbs. Gordon set the plate over to the side and pointed at the plate. First of all, presentation is a fucking disaster. You got oil spilling over the side of the plate like the BP fucking oil spill here. Clean it up! Ganondorf wiped some of the oil off with a paper towel and apologized. Sorry, chef. Now let's taste the food, Gordon said as he tried to cut into it with a knife, but it wasn't working for him so well. The knife wouldn't penetrate through the solid hunk of rock that sat on the plate. Come feel this. Ganondorf stepped forward as he tried to press his knife through his own meal, but the knife just wouldn't cut through it. It's solid as a fucking rock, Gordon cursed at him. He pulled out a welder and applied the torch's flame to the food, melting off a chunk for himself. When he was finished, he placed the welder down on the ground and then put the chunk of ore in his mouth. He tried biting down on it, but didn't manage to get very far with it. And it's fucking salty. How much salt did you pour into the pot? He asked. Ganondorf stared at him with fear written all over his face. The whole bag, he admitted. The whole fucking bag! Gordon exclaimed, spitting the chunk of rock right in Ganondorf's face.
Oh, God.
It hit him directly on the forehead and pressed into it, leaving an indentation. The rock also seemed reddish in color, like a ruby, and the rock became permanently compressed into his forehead. You fucking donkey! He screamed at him.
Oh my God.
The rest of the dinner service was also not going so well for Ganondorf. Customers weren't getting their orders on time. People were getting pissed off from waiting, and Gordon's nerves were shot. Ganondorf was on very thin ice for him as it was, but the rest of his dinner performance continued evermore to be a recurring shit show. Come here, you! Gordon called him over. He had that angry, hellfire look in his eyes that always coincided with his most epic roasts of all time. Ganondorf swallowed hard. He knew he was about to get it really bad from him. I have never, ever, Gordon began, had as little faith as I have in you. You are a fucking embarrassment. Ganondorf felt himself shrink down in size compared to Gordon Ramsay. It was like the man was towering over him. Each time he spoke, it was like it reduced what shred of manhood he had left in him. You can't fucking cook. You're a useless sack of shit. Gordon looked beyond him and made a hand gesture with his hand at level with his neck, and he said to the cameraman, "Shut it down! We're shutting it down!" All the customers were subsequently kicked out of the open field. The lone cooking pot was extinguished. The dinner service had been cancelled. The weather began to take a turn, and it began to rain as Ganondorf sat in the grass with his head buried in his legs. He wasn't having very much fun anymore. Worst adventure ever, he sobbed. I just want to go back to being evil again. Me too, a voice next to him spoke aloud. Ganondorf looked to his side to see a washed-up, fully bearded Kylo Ren sitting on a log beside him.
God.
He was wiping the tears from his eyes. He hadn't stopped crying after he saw how they butchered Episode 9. Ganondorf patted him on the back, trying to reassure him, but truthfully, he felt just as down in the dumps as he did. The sound of a spoon tapping against a wine glass could be heard. The crowd of people finally quieted down. I brought you all here today in wondrous celebration, a familiar voice spoke, and the lamps in the field illuminated a smiling Link, who never looked more satisfied and relieved in all the time he had been awake since his slumber. To celebrate the fact that I have finally gotten laid.
Oh my God.
Everyone immediately broke into a loud, woo! In cheerful joy. That's awesome, man. Jack Black was holding an electric guitar in his hands. He strummed the
Oh my
victory theme
God.
song from Zelda 3, except it sounded more metal and awesome. There were other musicians in the audience as well. David Draymond, Dave Grohl, Maynard James Keenan, the band members from Stradivarius, Martin O'Donnell, and Mick Gordon. All of them were assembled to celebrate the fact that Link had finally become a true man and had slowly but certainly put the plot back on the right track. I'd like each of you to take turns, 15 minutes each, playing some of your best songs, while the best judges in Hyrule evaluate and judge which riffs hit the most, which grooves hit the most feels. I'm looking at you there, Martin. Martin smirked and gave him a wink. How about that Halo 3 ODST rain track? Am I right, guys? Or am I right? It's great to see that you're in such a good mood now that you've gotten laid, Master Link, one of the Hyrulean servants said. Link smirked deviously. I could get used to being the bad guy. If all I need to do is hide at the back of the dungeon and sleep with the princess, I think I'll be happy for the rest of my days. No more 3-foot stepladders. No more useless side quests. I can officially retire. Make sure you hold on to memories, David Draymond called to Link from the back.
Oh,
And open your
God.
heart and hands, my son, Maynard James Keenan added, or you'll never get over the river. I'll remember that, guys, Link called to them. Thanks. But not everyone at the party was as enthusiastic or as cheerful as Link was. A very disgruntled and humiliated Ganondorf drag queen appeared at the party, his head flung low in defeat, after failing to please Chef Ramsay's palate. The other musicians noticed Ganondorf appear. Some of them had a positive reaction. Love his outfit, Dave Grohl said. Yeah, I remember eating him out one time at a convention, Martin O'Donnell remarked. I wish I could have vicariously experienced it, Maynard James Keenan said. Oh my
wow.
God. Jack Black continued doing a couple of more awesome notes on his guitar. He did the Super Mario 64 slider theme, but made it sound metal and sick. Link! Ganondorf exclaimed with anger that immediately caused everyone's head to turn. Link stopped in mid-conversation with Keanu Reeves as they were debating about whether Cyberpunk would be Game of the Year or would have Game of the Year quality or not. He turned to face Ganondorf, who was standing there with a painful expression painted on his face. You don't look very happy. Having a tough adventure? Link asked him. Ganondorf just stood there, breathing heavily, and staring at Link with an eerie look of hatred and deep torment. You have no idea, he began, the hell I have been through. No one said it would be easy, dude, Link said to him, trying to reassure him. My adventures were always very challenging, but that's what made them so fun. Yeah, they got frustrating. You get tired of doing the same things over and over again from time to time. But when you master them and go back to them again and discover that you still know how to do it, it's a very rewarding feeling. How many times have I told you? Ganondorf's eyes were slowly glowing red as he glared at Link with mounting contempt. Not to call me dude.
Oh, God. Oh,
Link's-
no.
Link stood there with a stupefied expression on his face. He looked genuinely taken aback. He was beginning to realize just how far off the deep end Ganondorf was going. Whoa, okay, let's just back up a bit here. No, you back up! Ganondorf exclaimed. A gust of wind
God.
accompanied his words as the force pushed everyone back. The musicians almost lost some of their instruments as the wind pushed them all back when Ganondorf yelled at Link. Link spread his legs further apart as he held his hands up against the gusts of wind that blew against him in that moment. When it stopped, he looked at Ganondorf, his hands still raised defensively. Look, it's not really a personal thing. I just have a lot of guy friends, and I have a tendency to call them all dude, and suddenly, Ganondorf's hand was wrapped around Link's throat, and he raised him up, beginning to choke the life out of him. Oh no, a Hyrulean servant yelled. Someone do something! The sky had quickly darkened as the moon crossed over the sun and began to glow blood red, casting a red hue over the entire land of Hyrule. Ganondorf could feel himself beginning to mutate as the red rays from the blood moon soaked him. He released his grip on Link and dropped him as his physical form began to become more corporeal. Ghostly ectoplasm covered his entire body and turned a bright orangish color as he began to grow into a large storm that was soon sweeping across the entire land and setting everything ablaze. Oh fuck, Zelda exclaimed as she came running out of the castle. It's gender reveal party Ganon, his
Oh,
most
no.
powerful form.
Gender reveal party. Oh, no. Oh, my
The storm became more powerful and violent as a wall of fire consumed the land, leaving behind nothing but ashes. Lightning began to shoot down from the sky, and when it struck certain people, they started to behave very differently. I actually thought the sequel trilogy was better than the original Star Wars, one person said. Lightning struck others as they continued to spew narratives. Abby was a way better character than Ellie, and I'm glad she killed Joel. And finally, the new Scooby-Doo looks way better than the old Scooby-Doo, which is exactly how I also feel about Teen Titans Go. Link felt his expression turn more serious as his eyebrows lowered. Now you've gone too far, he said as he as he looked toward the musicians still gathered there. Come on, guys, play something together. Zelda approached Link and also included her advice. Do a ballad that puts him to sleep. It's the only way to stop it. The storm was becoming more fierce and destructive. For the longer gender reveal party Ganon was on Hyrule, the stronger he would become.
Oh god. Oh my god. No.
Jack Black led the others into a soft and gentle riff. It seemed to be working too, as the storm was finally beginning to subside. But the problem arose when Mick Gordon finally let his beat drop, and he began shredding notes on his strings that were so loud and emanated with such power, it drowned out the music of all the others, and instead filled the entire plains of Hyrule with the glorious sound of BFG Division.
Oh god.
Everyone stared up in alarm to see that the storm was beginning to transform once more, and it was becoming even more powerful. No, Mick, stop! Link exclaimed, but his voice was drowned out by the intense notes that were so loud they were practically slamming him in the face. The storm morphed into a new formation. It almost looked like it was sprouting a physical extension of itself that appeared phallic in shape. Because that's exactly what it was, a giant penis formed in the sky. And as Mick continued to shred his notes, the penis grew larger and larger and harder.
What the fuck?
As Nick continued to shred his notes, the penis grew larger and harder. He's going to doom us all! A Hyrule servant screamed in terror, and doom is in all capital letters for that sentence.
Oh,
He's going
God.
to doom us all! A Hyrule servant screamed in terror. Just as the song began to reach the climax, so too did the penis reach its full extent.
Oh god.
And before anyone could react, a large load dispensed down upon them from the sky, and it was going to cover all of them. A most humiliating death indeed. But Mick continued shredding his notes, and it was right at the end of the song where the beat gets the most distorted and awesome. And he played so hard, a powerful blast of sound energy shot outward from where Mick was playing, and it caused the semen that was ejected from the penis to be shot back upward, back into the eye of the storm, where gender reveal party Ganon's physical form was finally revealed, and the weak spot on his forehead where the red ruby was located was finally revealed. Do it now, Link, Zelda exclaimed. Link pulled the crucible out of his sheath, as its red blade was full of hellish inscriptions. The hell energy sizzled around the blade, illuminating his face red, as he ran toward gender reveal party Ganon, ran up his leg, mounted his shoulder, before jumping high up into the sky and slamming the sword down on his forehead. And once again the day was saved. Link once again thwarted the forces of evil with the help of Mick Gordon's fire soundtrack in the background. When the darkness was dispersed and people went back to their normal selves again, where they realized the sequel trilogy just wasn't all that great, nor are the cartoons of this day and age as awesome as they were when we were kids growing up. It felt like peace had once again returned to the kingdom. Link looked around for the princess, but he noticed she was nowhere to be found. Hey! Where'd she go? Now that I've saved the world, I was hoping to get a little bit of pussy. You know what I mean? But one of the servants shook their head with a frown, knowing Link was going to be really disappointed. Well, you see, you did save the world and all. Yeah, so? Link asked. You know what that means, right? He said. Link looked around, noticing everyone was staring at him with a frown, because they also realized what the implications meant. Wait, Link said, becoming frantic. You mean I'm not getting laid? A note was left nearby. A note was left nearby with the words written, Sorry, Link, but your princess is in another castle. No!
Oh my god.
Link screamed. He screamed as he fell to his knees and raised his hands. Whoa!
Oh my god.
One of the musicians played the game over music cue from the first Zelda game, and the others soon joined in.
Oh,
The
no.
end. The end.
Oh my god. That was
wait,
great.
But wait, there's more. There's a bonus ending. You wake up in a dark room. You wake up in a dark room, shackled and chained. It appears as though other prisoners are in a similar situation as you. One of the prisoners, named Mason, struggles and kicks his feet frantically. Rachel! He screams over and over again. Rachel!
Oh,
Suddenly, footsteps can be heard as a man enters the room.
No.
He holds a sharp knife to his lips and says, shh, 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 it's okay. His man bun is tied back neatly as he approaches Mason.
Oh, no.
He begins to undo his belt. It's okay. What are you? No, Rachel!
Oh, no.
He gets cut off. He gets cut off by having Neil Cuckman's awkwardly shaped penis get shoved into his mouth, forcing him not to speak. What's that? Neil Cuckman asked Mason. I can't hear your review over the sound of you choking on some dick. Suddenly,
No.
a cell phone starts ringing. Cuckman rolls his eyes and answers his phone.
Oh, no.
Yes? Hello? Oh, hi. His tone immediately turns pleasant as he continues thrusting back and forth in Mason's face, forcing him to take his entire dick. I was
Oh,
calling you
no.
earlier to find out why you gave a bad review on The Last of Us 2 earlier. Is there a way I could maybe change your mind on how you felt about it? No? He stops thrusting against Mason before he takes the phone, clicks off, and then stares around the room. He then notices you. You immediately feel uncomfortable, wondering why you didn't just stop reading the story instead of putting yourself through this. But you force yourself to watch as Neil Cuckman pulls his dick out of Mason and approaches you. Now his penis is inches away from your face. What'd you think about this story? Neil Cuckman asks as he slowly gets closer to you, the reader. Was it a good story? Did you like it? Your mouth is agape as it gets dangerously close. All you see before closing out of this browser before the story ends is Cuckman's penis coming in close. It's about to go in. It's about to go into your mouth. It's right there. Wait now, and you stopped reading.
Oh my god.
That's it.
That
That's the end of the
cliffhanger.
story.
Holy shit.
But I want Chris Hansen to fuck me in the ass.
You wanted to see the scene where Neil Cuckman puts his dick in your mouth?
No, I
That's
want
pretty
Chris.
disgusting.
I want Chris
No.
Hansen on
Oh,
my
shit.
ass.
No.
I want Chris Hansen in my ass and be like, can I anally rape you?
What did you guys think of the dark, ironic twist of having it so that Link doesn't get laid because he becomes the hero of the story?
I had a feeling that would be the case. Like,
Did you actually? Well, you seemed it happen as it was happening.
yeah.
Wasn't that? See how like the plot got really out of hand, but then I actually made a plot out of the story.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to do that, you know.
It is.
It's difficult to go past the brink of absurdity, but to somehow bring it back to having a plot. So the irony is that Link did all of that just to get pussy, only to have it undone in the end by the fact that he had to save the world. And that's the irony. That's the irony of being the good guy. The irony of being the good guy is that the nice guy finishes last. He doesn't get to finish the princess.
Yeah.
Just like how SJW politics always get their way. The nice guy finishes last. The people who actually appreciate the game, the actual game developers, the fans themselves, the links of that story that don't want to wear the transgender clothing, that don't want to have SJW politics forced in their throat. That's who Link represents. Me and you, the gamers. The gamers who just want to enjoy the game and have a good story. And then when we actually do what we're supposed to do, us gamers, like we do what we do, we save the world, we still don't get the fucking pussy or the princess in the end. That's us. And then Ganondorf, of course, represents everything terrible about SJW culture. It's not just about him being transgendered. It's about the SJW culture that goes with him.
Yeah. I definitely see that.
What do you think of the gender reveal party for his final form? Did you see that coming?
I did not see that coming. I really did not. Oh my god. I was like, oh shit. Oh my god.
And then the bonus ending with Neil Cuckman and Mason.
Oh,
And you. the reader.
Oh god.
Basically, like, how'd you enjoy the story, guys? Did you like it? Well, he's like putting his dick in your mouth. Did you like my fucking story? Did you like it? Did you like my story?
Oh my god.
George Floyd.
But that's basically what he did with The Last of Us 2. He's like, do you guys like my game, guys? Do you like it?
Yeah.
Sorry. Do you like my game, guys? Do you like it?
Yeah, and then
George Floyd.
Oh god. Yeah.
I wish I could write for The Onion. I should write for The Onion. I'm so good at this political satire stuff.
Oh yeah. You probably
Huh?
that'll probably go well for you.
3 to 10.